At this time, I'll recognize Interim City Manager Brian Bourne to present the first of our budget departmental discussions. Brian?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to kind of say a few words, kind of set the stage. We'll be hearing from all of the different departments over the next few months, each doing a presentation regarding their budget request. A few things that I'm looking at in the budget. We have staffing needs. I'd like to kind of maintain staffing. And there's also some space needs that go along with that. So some of these presentations you'll hear items as related to space needs. We've addressed some staffing in the past budget. However, the space requirements were not dealt with. So I feel it necessary to deal with those before they become critical. And with our ARPA funding and the way it relates to IT, we have some opportunity there to leverage some of that funding to allow us to do some of those bigger ticket items required in that process. Also, maintenance of our facilities and equipment is big. Next in line are the building roofs that we have that are going to need some work. Some of those are aging, so we'll have to address those needs. And then also, I'd like to be consistent and maintain our merit and COLA into the future for the employees. This would allow us to keep pace with our salary studies and everything, and we wouldn't get behind. If you remember, 5 years ago, we had to phase the general fund to bring that to market over a period of 3 years. So maintaining that would help us to avoid some of that. We also have added a few facilities, the theater and the science center. I'd like to make sure that we have those on solid ground as we move forward with their programming and opening. They're new facilities, so I don't expect maintenance to be great on the front end, but just to make sure they're secure and move forward and do what we wanted them to do. Also underway are police headquarters and the senior center. Those are under construction right across the street. They're making great progress. So there are needs with those new buildings. Furniture, other things that you probably be seeing in the budget that aren't part of that project. And then also we've made some commitments for Fire Station 6 and to streets. We've allocated some funding through our fund balance, $5 million. Rather than do a temporary station, we can build a permanent station for Station 6, the design and construction of that out of the $5 million. And then the concern with potholes and the condition of our streets, we've added $1 million to that budget. And that's all due because of the sound financial place we're in, the conservative measures we took. We still have COVID to think of. It's still a concern, and it's still impacting with labor shortages, material shortages, just scheduling with contractors. So we do have to think about those things. So I want each department to make a presentation to council regarding their needs, and I want us to use this to help management, myself, finance, to better align council's priorities with staff's needs. And then we can come back in April and with a presentation of hopefully the final budget or a draft of the final budget for your consideration. So with that, the first on the budget presentation agenda is the Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport, Peter Savalas.
Thank you, Brian.
Excuse me. Lisa, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I was just going to text you.
Good. Good afternoon, Council. Peter Savalas here, the airport manager for Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport. Some of you are new, and first of all, I just want to say welcome, and I encourage you, and I look forward to hosting you out at the airport so you guys could get a good look at the airport firsthand. I'd love to take you out there and kind of explain to you, as we like to say in the military, boots on the ground. And I'm ex-military, so boots on the ground. You can see exactly what the airport does and how it functions and how important it is as an asset to the community and to the city. I have, for your awareness and your considerations, some items for the budget. These are not, I wouldn't consider them major items in the scheme of things. Brian gave us a kind of a threshold of 100,000. These are below 100,000, but they're important for this airport. As small as an operation, but it's equally very important for us. The first one's in the theme of what Brian just briefed about the maintenance. We have the rehabilitations to the airport parking lots. These are 3 parking lots that are adjacent to buildings that are owned by the city. They are in old shape. The airport, it's been out there since 1969. Some of these pavements have not been touched since the construction first occurred. As an example, we have the 3 parking lots that we're going to address with this request is the terminal building, Hangar 1, and Hangar 5 and 6. As an example, the terminal building, the main terminal building out there at the airport, the building was constructed along with this parking lot in the year 2000, 2001 approximately. It has not been touched since then. So the pavement is aged, it's oxidized, it's in very deteriorated very noticeably, but even so, it's in good condition. Our city engineer has come out there and inspected the pavement, and for consideration of how we should approach this, she sees it being able to only done a surface treatment, not a complete overlay. The overlay would take care of all the oxidation of the pavement, and then we would also address any cracking and such. The same thing applies with the parking lots at Hangars 1 and at 5 and 6. In addition, in 5 and 6, there's a little bit additional money to do some, call it pavement maintenance, to dig down and kind of straighten out some cuts that have been cut into that parking lot because we had some utility work done in that area. So just to make it all look very nice and improved, the total amount would be approximately $67,225. It would be a one-time cost, and the idea would be to prolong the life for at least another 10 to 15 years before we would address it again with possibly an overlay at this point. And there is no recurring cost, annual cost to that. The second one that I have, the airport provides, for those that you aren't aware, the airport provides the aviation services out there. We fuel the airplanes, we tow the airplanes, and we have equipment that supports that helps us provide that service. One of the pieces that we have, a piece of equipment that we have is called a ground power unit. It's basically a big generator plug into the airplane so that the airplanes can operate, the big corporate jets can operate on the ground so they don't have to keep their engines running. Currently, we have one, and it's been a very good piece of equipment, and it's lasted us a long time. However, with the increased demand that we're having, especially because of the traffic, the amount of corporate jet traffic that we're having, it's a struggle to keep that thing. It's constantly going. It's constantly being taken in and out to the ramp plugged in. Because of that, and really sometimes it comes, we have a list of people waiting for us to get it plugged in. The airplanes, they show up and it's already being used by one, and they say, well, when it's done, I'd like to have it plugged in too for my airplane. This is for the large corporate jets, and we want to treat these guys because those are the as we call in all realism, the money makers for the airport. Those are the ones that generate the most revenue for the airport. We see a need to increase the number of GPUs out there to 2, and we have 1, and like I said, we want to increase it to 2 units. And so this would be, again, a unit that we would put to good use out there. And also what's good about this, and because we're an enterprise fund, this unit, the cost of the unit is $45,000, and the recurring cost would be about $1,000, and that's just a prorated amount that we figure based on facility or vehicle fleet maintenance that we've gotten, how much it would take to keep it up, because it would be part of our inventory. the good side, if there's a good side to say this, it is a revenue generator. So every time we plug it into the airplanes, we charge for that service. And so I believe it's about $50 an hour to charge. So we will get revenue to offset the cost of this piece of equipment. So. Okay, here comes the interesting ones. Personnel, and some of you are aware of this, some of you are not. Again, I mentioned the staffing that we have out there, and this is in theme of, as the manager has shared about looking at our staffing. The airport provides the aviation services. As a matter of fact, of the total staffing of out there at the airport, 14 personnel that are assigned to the airport, 12 of those 14 are dedicated directly to providing aviation services. We have two functions. We have what we call the line service technician, and these are the gentlemen that actually go out there and tow the airplanes, fuel the airplanes. And then we have the customer service reps. The line service technicians right now, the staffing that we currently hold, and let me step back again and provide the hours of operation for the airport. The airport is open 365 days a year, 16 hours a day. So we're open every day of the year, regardless, because we do have traffic that comes in every day of the year. And as such, to best support it, we have to have these line service technicians who provide the fueling and the towing, and the customer service reps to be there to help assist in the manner of the customers directly. The line service technicians, right now, we have 4 full-time staffing and 2 personnel. That's to cover 2 shifts, 2 personnel per shift, per 2 shifts per day. So it's very tight. And we run into issues where we're constantly, my guys are maxed out, the full-times are maxed out, and we're really short-handed sometimes in our staffing, and especially if someone goes sick or if someone has vacation time and not able to work, it creates an issue. And we can't do without less than 2. I mean, because as it is, even with the 2 that we have, they're typically split apart, and they're going one direction and one is going in the other direction. We have looked at this for a number of years now, and actually with the help of finance, we've also looked at this. The only way we see fit to help us better cover our staffing is to actually convert the line service technicians, the 2 part we have, and what we have is a pool positioning staffing. The positioning is for a number of personnel to fulfill 20 hours a week. Well, we don't meet that. We exceed that actually. So to convert this positioning, this part-time pool position, eliminate that and convert it to 2 staff, full-time staff positions, is the best way of covering the hours that we need without impacting our staffing altogether. Right now, based on the increases that we see, we would see an annual increase of $29,647 a year. And that would be, and we have the personnel to do this because the people that are right now in part-time positions would welcome the opportunity to convert to full-time positions. So I think there's a desire, and it would help us too in terms of managing the operation and the staffing, because we wouldn't have to train these individuals. We just convert them to full-time positioning. And it would be very beneficial for the airport operation. It would help tremendously in the staffing. That's for the line service technician. Along the same lines, for the customer service representatives, we have the same issues, except this one is a little bit higher. It's a critical situation because we only have 1 full-time person and 4 part-time position, of which 3 of the part-times are in this, what we call this pool position. Here again, they're trying to cover 2 shifts a day, 7 days a week. And again, we have run into this one. We have really directly seen the impact of exceeding our budget for our pool position, and it's not benefiting financially. It isn't a higher outlay for the city. However, it would stabilize the workforce and effectively to the positive, the operating costs in the long run. To convert the part-time positions to, it would be 3 full-time positions. And actually, if you see that, you can see the mirror how it works. 6 full-time positions, line service technicians, 3 line customer service reps. 2-to-1 ratio is exactly what we hold on the shift at a given point. 2 line service technicians to 1 customer service rep. The outlay to the city, the increase would be $68,871, and that would be the total recurring annual salary and benefits for this conversion. If there are any questions?
I got something to add to that. if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. The new members, how many of you seen our airport? Okay. Get a good tour? I think we need to do that.
Yes, sir. I gladly do that.
What
I gladly
we,
invite you.
the airport that we have, we're one of the only small airports in the southeast United States got customs. That's quite a feat. And we have land where Concord doesn't. Concord is landlocked. They can't expand. We're not. We can't expand. We've got one area that we're going to have to think out of the box. And the reason I spoke up is we've got to have a maintenance hangar, but right now we can't afford it. Steel jumped 20% up to $2 million. So our price tag went from $4 million to $6 million. But between Peter and the board, we're going to be working hard to see if we can't think out of the box and come up with something, because we're not going to be able to get the big boys if we don't have maintenance. And that's a given. We got, right now, NetJets are coming in right and left. If y'all know what NetJets is, people, in fact, expand on that, Pete.
Yes, sir. NetJets and also Wheels Up, which is another big charter operator, is on a regular basis. I would say we typically bring in, on average, 2 to 3 a day of those jets come in, and that frequency is something that, and I understand what the council member Keziah is saying is true, that we can't stop it. It's going to come. Let me explain to you. It's coming. It's already here. It's already coming. We already have the traffic. And it's unfortunate sometimes on a given day you can think you go out there and you don't see anything. But on another day, we could literally have the entire ramp covered with corporate jets out there, and my guys are scrambling and don't even get a chance to sit down. And as a matter of fact, last month we pumped 45,000 gallons of jet fuel. So that's the indication of what we have. And not only the charter operators, we have a lot of companies that are interested in flying in and out of here. As a matter of fact, I'm working with one particular customer right now, an operator actually, that supports a Hobby Lobby. He named off about 2 or 3 corporations that actually need to fly in, and they're wanting to fly, instead of flying into Charlotte Douglas, they want to start flying into the airport here and using our airport. So we're on the map for the corporate jet travel. And as the chairman said, or excuse me, chairman for the Airport Commission, but Councilmember Keziah is saying it's true, and one leads to the other. Right now, we're full utilization in terms of operations. If we build a maintenance hangar, those airplanes will be here to stay, because that's what they look for. They look for a home, and they look for somewhere to maintain. And that is the key component that we need to get us to that next level. We've reached the level right now. We have maxed out in everything that we can do down there at the airport. In terms of hangaring airplanes, all our hangars are 100% capacity. We're pumping fuel out the nose. I mean, we on average buy fuel, a tanker load of fuel every 2 weeks, is because we're pushing so much fuel out there. And so we're maximized. And the items that I've presented to you are those types of items that I feel will support us, keep us there, just right above the water, head above the water. But things like the maintenance hangars, and that's on my table, my desk to do, is to come up with as the council member said, a creative solution out of the box to come up with how do we get to that next level, because it's there. and the conditions are right for us to expand that airport even greater. So,
Good job, Pete.
thank you. You good?
Peter, in the two positions going
Yes, sir.
from part-time to full-time,
Yes, sir.
when we were talking, we were discussing how that could be somewhat of a savings because of the overtime.
Yes, sir.
taking
Yes, sir.
full-time.
And that's true. And the overtime is reflected in the part-time budget because as finance has pointed out to me, our budget, our salary and wages, we're at budget. But if you dig into the detail, they say the devil's in the details. You get down to the part-time budget, it's totally out of whack because we rely so much on our part-time staff. And that's where we exceed our budget exceedingly. The customer service rep budget is only budgeted at, I believe, $29,000 a year. And we're expending over $50,000 in our part-time CSR budgets because we can't meet the scheduled needs in accordance to using the pool position as it's defined.
I will say this, in the next 4 to 5 years, the most valuable asset for Union County and Monroe is gonna be that airport. Because it's gonna grow. We're near Valentine, we're set perfect, we got land, but right now, this inflation from standpoint of building, when it went from 4 to 6, couldn't afford to lease it to the Jeff Atkinson at the airport because he couldn't make the payments. And the worst thing we can do is to bring him into that and him go broke. So we're calling a dilemma. We've got to look after him because he's that important to the airport. But in the same token, we've got to think out of that box some way or another to come up with a way to build this hangar and make it work.
Mr. Mayor, Manager, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of council?
Good job.
Finance, Lisa, anything to add for this?
Yeah, I think we'll save around 20 to 25,000 in overtime by making this switch. Because right now our full-time people are picking up a lot of the slack up there when the part-time people aren't coming. There's a lot of turnover keeping those part-time positions filled. So I really think this is probably a move for the best.
And to answer, yeah, that's a good point also, to look at it that way. The full-time people pick up the shifts because these part-time people that we have, most of them have full-time jobs in other locations, and so they have a limitation to their scheduling requirements, to their scheduling requirements where they can get to the job. Sometimes they can't come to work until after 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So we have to pick up the shifts somehow and as a matter of fact, that's what I was doing just now. We had our part-time customer service rep that was working this afternoon. She was sick, so we had no coverage and we had to get somebody else in, and actually yours truly was out there actually answering the phones and talking to people because we had nobody else in. And between myself and Don Ray, the airport operations manager, we were out there covering the front desk until the person left. I came just now in time for this, but they were scheduled to show up at 4 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Why don't you tell them how we changed our people coming down from Charlotte, how much money you saved to show that you are working very diligently to save money with the customs?
Oh, yes, the customs program. The city, with my doing, we worked with the customs individuals, and there's a new program. So when the city signed up, I guess you could say, made an agreement with U.S. Customs Border Protection to provide customs services out there, which we are the only general aviation airport. The closest next general aviation airport that has the same type of service is in Atlanta. There's nothing in the Carolinas. Closest one is up in Virginia too, up in the other direction. So we're the only airport in South Carolina, North Carolina, general aviation, meaning not commercial service, but general aviation airport that provides customs, international services. So we can have flights that come in directly from Canada, Mexico, even Europe, Bahamas. They can fly directly into our airport and clear customs. The city made the agreement back in 2011. It fell under the, what they call the the user fee program. That put the city agreeing to that service required the city to have to pay for the salary of one agent. Even though we know it's not manned, the facility's not manned, we still had to pay for the salary, one-time salary, or the annual salary for one agent to be able to come out and do the processing. That's $140,000, I believe it was. I've lost the number. I forgot the number. 140, 123,000, somewhere around there. This past year, we became eligible, and with working with the Customs Border Protection, we have converted that program from a user fee program. Oh, and that allows us to put to reclaim recoup that cost, that annual salary. But it required me to establish a rate so high that even though it was a good rate in the scheme of things, it was still a very expensive rate, $1,000 to clear customs. And it was honestly, it was a deterrent. People weren't coming to see us. This past year, we converted it to another program that Customs Border Protection offers. It's called the Reimbursable Service Program. Now we're not paying for the annual salary. Now we basically pay for play. If we need customs out there, we pay for it. Yes, at the same hourly rate that they computed out for the annual salary for that individual, but we're only paying for the time when he comes out there, physically comes out there. That has reduced our budgets by 2/3, I believe, 3/4 of the annual budget that we had allocated for the customs operation. $200,000 down to about 55, I believe it is, somewhere in that vicinity. That's great for us because now the overhead is not as high. We're also able to lower the rate that we charge for that service because we have to recoup that cost. Now we only charge $525 to do customs clearing. And that's a lot better and a lot more attractive to the customers when they hear about that because they know they have to pay a fee. Yes, sir.
So using terms I'm not entirely familiar with.
Yes, sir.
We are not ever going to allow space for fixed base operators, correct?
Right now, no, sir. That is proprietary services. The primary services, which is to provide fuel, is wholly on the city.
But beyond that, aren't you pretty much on par with Teterboro Airport as far as runway space and capacity?
No, sir. That's a larger airport.
Okay.
That is a
But we
greater
could-
size airport, and actually it has Teterboro has commercial service too. So we're not the equivalent of that.
Could we be that big?
Yes, sir. Very much so, easily. And as a matter of fact, in the future, given that future that the council member, because I was talking about and what I've kind of helped too in providing information, yes. How soon? It's a function of money, obviously. The city's charge is how much can we afford to invest in the facility and make it attractive. It's already attractive for customers. There are a number of customers, like I said, I just gave an example. That's just one type of request or inquiry I get all the time of people wanting to either come out and build a hangar or what's it going to take if I bring my airplane out here. Again, people are looking for the city, and I appreciate it, and I try to diplomatically explain how important the airport is to us. We're willing to invest, but we have other priorities. The city has other priorities that we have to value too. And so, but I think, and I'm very appreciative of the council's support, of the city staff support, the other departments that work with me in making this airport a great thing, and it is a great thing. And so it's a matter of investment and where we're at in making it, marketing it correctly. I think we're doing a great job. I personally think because I mean we're showing it by the stats that we generate out of that airport. And when you come out, I'll be more than happy to share those greater details with you.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
One thing I do want to add, I was excited when the state's budget. went
Mayor,
through.
could you ask anyone that's coming to speak for longer than 2 seconds to actually come to the podium?
Yes.
Yeah, and identify yourself.
I'm Lisa Strickland, the Finance Director. Good evening, all. When the state's budget got passed this past year, this past month or so, for the first time in forever, a big amount was allocated toward airports and transportation, and we're looking forward to seeing how we can access some of that funding. So we'll be keeping you in the loop on that, and we'll be looking for our consultant, to try and tap into that money.
Could you use Todd Johnson and some of our elected officials to help get some of that? Would that be a possibility?
Anything helps, sir. Especially just communicating to the right people at the right time. Yes, sir.
Is this state money or federal money?
This is
State.
state money.
State money, okay.
This is the General Assembly's, the annual budget that and that is important because that money is in part of it is the leverage that we have to do for the federal grants, but it's also, there's a lot of state money that the state has. I'm also a member on the board of the directors of the Aviation Association for North Carolina, and we've worked hard with the General Assembly to help make sure they understand and appreciate it, and they do. And so there's a good chunk of that is actually state-generated revenues that are coming, that are going to be applied to the state. And those, I won't say they're less restrictive, but they have different, they're a little bit more open to some of the stuff that we can do with it. So we are definitely working with the consultant and trying to see what else. Incidentally, we do have 2 projects that are already underway that are going to be tremendous benefits to the airport. An apron project right there to rehab airport pavements, and that's for aviation pavements. And then we're also fixing doing some clearing off the ends of the runways. We have to keep our approaches safe. So, thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have downtown, and Matt Block will take care of that presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council and new elects. My name is Matthew Black. I am the Downtown Director for the city, and I have a couple of items that I am prioritizing for this upcoming fiscal year. The first capital improvement project is to finish our wayfinding signage, specifically 2 signs at Highway 74 Gateway. We currently have 2 signs, if you recall, on 74, one near Tyson, and the other one, I guess you would call it near the flea market on 74. We're looking to replace those signs, which are high interest, to continuation and finish the project of about $150,000. Of course, with the uncertainty of construction right now, $50,000 worth in contingency. And we already have the Buzz Bazell on board who designed it for us. I have the image. We're actually going to scale it down. This is a little bit too big. He had it for 32 feet. Probably going to cut this almost in half, but you can kind of see what gateways will look like. This will be a smaller version of this sign, but same colors, same format. And then that will just be the initial cost. And once they're up, they're pretty much self-maintained.
Would that be using the same signage that we're trying to use in all of our other branding?
Yes, sir. It will be, yes. The same color schemes as current wayfinding signs going up. The dark blue, the green. Next, for a capital improvement project is a dog park as part of the overall Science Center Master Plan area. And I've talked to an architect, McAdams, and it will cost roughly $80,000 to $100,000. This is of high need in the community because dogs are becoming like second kids to some people, or even their only kid. The estimated cost is $10,000 for an architect to design it, $80,000 for construction, and $10,000 for a contingency. And then there's $1,000 to replace, for example, the little splash area for the dogs where they can get water, to put in doggy bags and stuff of that nature. My goal, if it is approved, to have a iron fence with turf areas and a couple of play areas such as, I guess, like jumping, maneuver toys that you see on TV for the dog shows, that kind of stuff as well for the dogs. So it'll be a high-grade dog park, and it would be really set the tone for downtown in terms of dogs.
Did you say the location of this is around the Science Center?
Correct, yes. So we are moving forward with paving the Science Center parking lot area. And then if you go a little bit further down, right across from facilities maintenance, there's a little area where that brick wall is. It would go in that cove right there.
If you remember the old Mosier property, it was a car repair, auto repair type
Yeah,
station.
yeah.
We bought that.
Sort of out more on the Windsor side?
It's on the Franklin
It's on the
side.
Franklin side.
Okay.
Right
Okay.
near the
Yeah. Okay, all right, I got you.
Right
Yeah.
adjacent to Miss Schute's property,
Yeah.
right at
Okay.
the wall there.
Just trying to get,
And then the next one would be a continuation of Belk Tonawanda Park. We requested this last year. There is a fairly high price for $410,000, but it would also make improvements to already gateway. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. So this would be a gateway into downtown where currently Gateway Park is, with the fountain that we did about 3 years ago.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, okay, this is Belk Tonawanda Park, and this would be a current addition as a gateway into downtown. We can include signage, or we can extend Belk Tonawanda at $410,000. That's the current market, or the car. What would you call that? It'd be
It's Cuthbertson
mechanical place.
Auto repair shop right there.
Oh, you talking about the one right there next to the train track?
Yes,
Exactly.
correct. That would be that.
That needs to be ours.
We looked at that a few years ago, but we weren't happy with that $410,000.
Yes,
price.
this is a little steeper than the property value, the tax value of that property.
Have they come down any?
Not that I'm aware of.
As speaking for myself, and as much as that Belk Tonawanda Park has to offer, even if we had to pay a tad more, that's a real eyesore to be sitting there next to that park.
We can move forward with the discussion, just reach out back to the property owner, see if he would like to come down, or I'll let Brian do that. That's his expertise in property acquisitions.
well, it never hurts to be in touch with people that have something that we'd possibly be interested in. But, sad part is I'm well aware of the fact that most of the time when they find out that it's the city that's interested, the price seems to go up, so.
Yeah, and this is something that, like I said, we looked at in the past. We don't want to forget it, so we keep it on the list,
Right.
kind of thing.
But-
If an opportunity arises, we'll always bring that forward to you.
But you always got that possibility of it not ever coming forward too, so you
Yeah,
gotta look at it.
so we got to pursue it too.
Because that Belk Tonawanda really is an asset to the city.
And this would allow us to expand on the improvements that we're already investing in, that will probably be coming forward at the next meeting.
Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Yes.
Next capital improvement project, is most of you are well aware of, is the one-way street conversion of Franklin and Jefferson Street. The initial phase, which would be the design and construction plans, is about $1.2 million. And that price is not going down anytime soon. We've ran the numbers through Sarah, and they're still going up. So after the first year, the goal would be for the design and construction, and then years 2 and 3 would be the implementation of the design and of the peanut conversion, which would be about a total of $9.8 million for the project.
How can we bump that up to high need?
I would love to see that happen. I think it'd be a great opportunity to add additional parking, streetscape beautification, outdoor seating. It's a great project. I know the number is fairly high, but it could reap benefits long-term for the downtown area.
There's another component of this. If you remember when we did the master plan back in 2008, 9, it was a part of that plan, and we had the study for Franklin Jefferson conversion as part of that. Part of this would be having that study updated. That was part of last year's budget consideration also. So that would be the first step before we kind of get into this design and construction. They may have some new ideas as to how to accomplish that. That might be more creative and a little less expensive.
I've also let the businesses know that if this project were to move forward, that they might see impacts of this project through their business, because they will have to shut off parts or have detours once construction begins. So some of them are well aware of the implications of it, but long term, it would be a great project for downtown.
Pat, could you share with us, please, the main large expense in doing this? Is it the traffic lights, the controls for them, or is it DOT asking?
It's mainly the utilities upgrades and everything underground. That's the huge bulk of the cost. And then the architectural fees of 1.2 usually a certain percentage of the overall project. So that's why that price is there for just the architect.
If we, when we open up the ground to do this, we want to make sure that all of the upgrades for future development are there to accommodate it. So a lot of that is underground and we wouldn't see, but also it's not just a matter of changing the signals or the lines. It's restructuring that whole streetscape from right-of-way to right-of-way, adding parking or pedestrian safe havens. The lighting would be redone. So a lot of that is that cost.
Right, because you remember how Sarah talked about the cost of paving a fourth of a mile? Well, you're doing almost a full mile worth of reconfiguration of 2 streets. So that's why, that kind of tells you where the price is going. And next, another project, which is medium on the list, would be the roundabout at Charlotte Avenue and Lancaster Avenue. This would be a great benefit to the Gateway Park initiative. So you'd have the roundabout going towards Charlotte Avenue and Lancaster Avenue, and then you'd have walkability from downtown to Gateway Park. And that's also about $2.19 million. And this is of high need for downtown. I've placed priority on, because not only do we need it, but it's very impactful and will have immediate impact on downtown. And that will be replacing of all the cement planters in the downtown area, which is approximately 85 planters. We're looking at about $350 per planter. And not only are they bigger than the current ones we have, but they also are more water efficient. So we will save water on that end. And we will also move the planters from the buildings outside to close towards the brick pavers. So when you're driving down all the major thoroughfares, you'll be able to see the planters better. And we won't have businesses moving them because of the size.
Will they still need to be hand watered, or is there a possibility of getting some irrigation tubing?
So I have a sample right here. If you could pass this around, what it looks like. It has a water reserve on the bottom. So they only have to water maybe once every 1 or 2 weeks.
Any grant money for any of this projects you're putting on the board?
I'm sorry?
Is there any grant money available for any of this?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that possibly for the dog park, we could possibly get ARPA funding for that. Am I correct in saying that? We might be able to.
over in another project, there's always the potential to reallocate, some of that funding if we don't need it in another area. Right now, we've allocated it almost in its entirety. We're going to be swapping one project out, but we'll be bringing that to council in January as well.
How much you talking about, Lisa?
There'll be some savings actually left when we swap this project out. The project is the Greenway to Cruft Park. We're going to award the contract for the Belk-Tonawanda project, and there was an overrun. So we would like to fund the overrun on that project with ARP funding and take the Greenway project that was slated and do some design work on it and submit it for a part-of grant. That way we can maybe get funding. We feel like it'll be a good candidate to be funded under the part-of program. So there'll be around $130,000 left when we reallocate that, so that could potentially go toward this if council would desire.
And with the part of criteria connecting Craft to Don Griffin, to the farmer's market, to Belk-Tonawanda, that makes for a good application for part of.
Question, do we have a grant writer?
We do not. But we are also, through the ARP funding, we'd asked for a position that would be able to keep up with all of the reporting for that grant, because it's just so much. They probably won't write grants, but at least we'll have somebody that will be dedicated. We can use some of the ARP money to offset the cost of that position.
You think hiring someone to do grants would be a good investment?
We've talked about it in the past. I know a lot of the departments are doing their own grant writing, and it would probably take a lot of the burden off of some of those folks that, that's really not their specialty, but, they do it. Police, fire, airport's a little different because we have a consultant that helps us, but, we could certainly consider that and talk about how that could work for us.
I just...
No, it's not we've tossed it around, so yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a recurring topic.
Yes.
And also, in regards to the planters, facilities maintenance has requested additional soil costs because they are larger planters. So if you do consider these planters, also consider putting the additional soil costs in their operating budget. So, and that's all I have. Are there any further questions for me in regards to downtown?
Have you considered, or was there any interest in doing hanging baskets similar to what they do downtown Matthews?
Yes, I've had a discussion with a couple people, and the issue that is maintaining them and watering them. You will need to hire a full-time staff just to go around downtown to water them because they dry out so fast.
In mid-July and August, the watering is probably necessary twice a day.
Yeah, I'm at the Matthews water ground.
Right. I do think they are really good looking. Also, if you want to do some type of hanging basket, we would probably have to switch out our lights in downtown in order to accommodate those, because most of those are built into the actual lights themselves. We would have to somehow be able to strap those hanging baskets onto the lights, which they don't really have anything like that right now.
It's 85 planters, is that what we have now?
We're actually cutting it back some because we're using larger planters, but in less areas. But we're still covering Franklin, Hain, Main, and Jefferson Street. So every business in downtown will have a planter in their proximity at equal distance. No one will be shown favorites.
Could a business buy a planter?
So we did develop a bench program for someone who wanted to donate a bench. That could be a possibility. I don't know how the city what that would go in terms of donating of planters and stuff like that, of that nature, but it was something I can look into. We do have a program set for benches, though. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Next on our agenda,
Here we go. Here
information
we go.
technology, Bruce Bounds.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Bruce Bounds, the IT Department. All our requests are personnel. The IT Department's done a little research as far as comparing the size of our department to other municipalities and counties of equivalent size, population, and industry as far as having electric, natural gas, that sort of thing. And we're actually staffed at about 33% of what other organizations are staffed at. And we really need to grow. The number of computers we have to support and mobile devices and telephones and et cetera is grown exponentially, and we're having a little trouble keeping up with it. We've also planned some to reconfigure the IT department in the coming years. Right now, the IT department's very linear. It's IT director, assistant director, a system admin, and a PC tech, basically. And it doesn't work real well. And the industry standard recommends splitting this out into a couple different disciplines, and it provides better support overall for the organization and to give us a way to promote, give people multiple promotion paths and things like that. So, but our GIS department, it's one person right now. And this request is for a GIS specialist, which would give us backup to our GIS coordinator. He's went past max load right now. He can't keep up with all the requests. And with our new softwares coming on board of Munis and CityView, they're becoming very more GIS centric. So that's requiring a lot more work on his part. So that's one reason we'd like to see have this request for a GIS specialist. And they would assist him in creating maps, processing data, and fulfilling the requests for the different departments. Our second request is for a data analyst. We don't have this position currently right now, and this position would be actually would probably cross departments somewhat, because the data analyst could be under the administration department or under finance possibly. We kind of feel it would probably be best under IT, because this person would actually write reports, manipulate data, and fulfill some other needs across the city as far as performance indicators and things like that that the city's trying to do to analyze budgets and things like that. And then our last request, we requested a technical support specialist here, but we had, just as of today, we got it approved to reclassify a position that we got last year to this technical support specialist. So we'll actually be downgrading this request. This is at I think is a grade 16, and we would actually make this request just a administrative assistant, which is a grade 10. So it'll be a lower dollar value that we'll actually put into the request, but we still are requesting that position. Administrative help within the IT department to answer the phones, for help tests, help calls, just doing administrative tasks in general that we don't have right now. And my presentation's much shorter than the other ones, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Bruce, real quick, I'm trying to get back up to speed on a couple of things. Where are we on the ability to start live streaming these council meetings?
Yes, so that is actually where the public information officer is working on with some different vendors, or trying to find some vendors that will, because we're going to use the ARP funding to build a whole new system to do in here and in the adjacent room to do that. And that's part of that.
So has that money already been allocated? So
Yes.
we're good on that?
It was passed within the last couple of months.
Right.
It's just, we're having trouble finding vendors.
The problem we're seeing is because it's federal monies, we need 3 bids. We only have 2 currently, so we're Pete's trying to get that critical 3rd bid in place, and then we could make a decision.
That's great. Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
But these salaries, are they competitive? I mean, are you gonna get people applying? I don't have any idea if
They-
it's good or bad or indifferent.
They fall in line with what, in a government organization, what they would pay for that. Typically, government organizations don't pay quite as well as the industry around, but we still have to fall in line with what the government industry allocates for that. And we tend to try to hire someone that's maybe a little bit greener, that doesn't have as much experience, and we train them up, and hopefully they'll see the benefit of working for government and stay with us. Thank you all.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Bruce. And next, we have legal. Majid?
Can I ask Lisa a question? Lisa, where we stand now as far as our revenue? I know it had been coming in higher than what you recommend, what you thought. How's the end of the year showing? Are we still gaining from sales tax and all?
We are still gaining from sales tax. In fact, Mary Lou was just giving me an update Friday and today. And, excuse me, sales tax just is continuing to be super strong. We talked about it, and we think a lot of the construction purchases, a lot of people are having material delivered to this zip code, is just driving it up. Collections are great. We'll continue to keep that, in mind as we develop the budget.
What is our fund balance right now that we've got to spend?
After we allocated the money to the Fire Station 6 and the streets, we left around $4.8 million in the unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
$4,558,897.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit less than I thought, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Give or take $1 or $2. My presentation will be shorter than Bruce's. Basically, when you get to the base budget deficiencies deferreds, there were no items requested by my office that were deferred in the past budget. Capital improvements, new initiatives. Well, of course, the goal of building a separate office on a nice parcel is something we've not brought to you, nor do we intend to. In other words, we have no capital improvements. From the initiative standpoint, there's nothing new on the deck. Therefore, as I said, there's not an issue there. From a personnel standpoint, we currently see no personnel needs. We are evaluating the need for administrative support, but we believe that's something we will defer for at least an additional fiscal year and determine if sharing arrangements can be used with other departments to eliminate the need to request a position. We do think at some point we will need administrative support, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's respectful of headcount and making sure that we have someone that is usable by multiple departments or usable just solely by our department. But that's an issue we're looking at for the future. So essentially a job share type issue. That is it. And as I said, my goal was to be shorter than Bruce's, and I have
Succeeded.
but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And other special projects that we're dealing with during this fiscal year are within our budgetary abilities, and also others working through with the manager's office and the finance department. So we're good to go otherwise.
And while you're there, Mujib, one of the things that I think we discussed, did we bring it up here or at a staff meeting, where some of our projects require brownfield attorneys?
Yes.
In the future, you'll probably be seeing those costs reflected in the project's budget rather than taking it out of current legal budget.
What we've done in the past, for example, when you've seen the good work that's been done on the Scott Aviation site, the Cooper Tools site, those were sites that had an economic development component, but then in some cases those have changed. Those costs were assigned to the city attorney's office, and that was something that I said, well, for the next time we have a project like this, that's not going to be the case. So, for example, we've had a matter, the solar issue that some of you are aware of, and I think we've talked about with all the new members. That's one that's being dealt with where the funding for that position, for the outside attorneys, is coming from Energy Services as opposed to my outside budget. So our outside budget takes care of matters we traditionally would handle. For example, the Board of Adjustments attorney that we have retained for years to have separate counsel. In that case, that's something that we typically handle, and then we pretty much handle the environmental counsel. But there will be other matters, and then for some other matters, when we've had some construction disputes at the airport, we've utilized our budget for that. But when it's something that can be accounted for further out in advance, we would have the departments build that into their budgets. And that's what's actually taking place in a lot of other circumstances. Happy to answer any other questions any of the members of council have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any, well, that, I think, covers the 4 different departments. Mayor, anything on your...
No.
Turn it back over to you.
Okay. I thank everyone for their reports, their requests, and understand it's dynamic. It may not be the same later on, but this gives us a good foundation to get started on with our budgeting process. This was all just for information, so there's no action needed. Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, I'll declare a recess till 6 o'clock for our regular council meeting now.
Sounds good.
Cool. I think we got some Chick-fil-A today.